Welcome to Case of Interest Kohberger. I'm Newswatch 16 Stacey Lang. This is our WNEP.com web series where each week we break down what's happening in the courts preparing for the Kohberger murder trial in Idaho. This is something for true crime fans or folks who are just interested in this case because it became a local story on December 30th after 2 months of investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. A Monroe County native, Bryan Kohberger, was arrested for that crime. And now we're awaiting the preliminary hearing, which is set for June. But every week there are court filings in both Pennsylvania and Idaho where we learn a little bit more about what's going on in the case. And there is a lot to talk about this week. There were court paperwork in both Idaho and Pennsylvania unsealed today. We've been talking about it all week on Newswatch 16. Of course, in Pennsylvania, we're talking about the search warrants. Search warrants were under seal for 60 days, and that 60 days lapsed this week. And we learned about the things that were collected from Kohberger's person on him when he was arrested on December 30th, and also from his home, his family home in Chestnut Hill Township, and finally his Hyundai Elantra, which has been a huge part of this case. So we wanted to take some time to go through those documents a little deeper than we have on Newswatch 16. If you want to take a look at them, and we can share a link on WNEP.com to this site, it's the Commonwealth versus Kohberger case of interest page for the state courts, and everything that has been filed and has been unsealed is listed here on this site. And you can also find those search warrant returns. This was the first one that we got on Tuesday. This is everything that was on Bryan's person when he was arrested in Chestnut Hill Township on December 30th. Some of the things are kind of benign, what he was wearing, but the two most interesting things to us are the first two things listed on this list. Number one, a flashlight and 4 medical style gloves were on his person when he was arrested. We had heard reports from other news outlets, from neighbors in Chestnut Hill Township, saying that he was wearing medical style gloves quite a bit in the days leading up to his arrest. This might further prove that point. Here's the list of things taken from his home in Chestnut Hill Township. Much longer list. I think there's 64, 65 items on here. A lot of things that really raise more questions than answers. A lot of clothes, personal notes, some books about criminal psychology. Of course, Kohberger was getting his PhD in criminology at Washington State University when this all happened. So that would make sense why he would have that, but why was it an important thing for police to pick up? And we won't know, and we possibly won't know until a trial, what police found when doing forensic investigations on some of these items. And then lastly, here's what you find in a car. And a lot of it is stuff that is not going to be unusual, especially to folks in Pennsylvania, that he had a shovel and a flashlight and reflective vest in his car. Many of us do that too. And loose change. Nothing significant, but they did take swabs. That's the first thing listed on the list. And they also took out all of the mats on the floorboards and stuff. Those were things that are, I think we can presume, going to be tested for blood evidence in this case to see if he had any blood on him leaving the house on King Road in Idaho and getting into his car after the murders. That's all stuff we might not hear in the preliminary hearing. We might have to wait until a trial to see what kind of blood evidence, if any, was recovered. There was also documents in Idaho that were unsealed this week as well, kind of related to a niche topic, but one that has been reported on previously since this all came out. And it has to do with a pretrial conference that happened a few weeks ago where Kohberger and his attorney, Ann Taylor, were in chambers with the judge and the prosecutors. And Ann Taylor, that Kootenai County chief public defender, defended herself in this hearing. She had been accused, I don't know if accused is the word, but it had been brought up that one of the victims of the murder, Xana Kernodle, her mother had been represented by Ann Taylor. This is actually an accusation that Xana's mom made directly on television. But in this hearing, we can tell from this transcript here that Ann Taylor says she, in fact, did not represent Xana's mom, just that her name is on all of the letterheads for the public defender's office in Kootenai County because she is the chief public defender. But she actually claims that she has never met Ms. Kernodle, Xana's mom, at any point, but Kernodle was represented by other people in the office, and that she doesn't believe that there's a conflict of interest. The prosecutors say in this meeting that they didn't believe that there was a conflict of interest. And at the very end, I wanted to draw attention to the end of this document. Kohberger is asked if he believes there's a conflict of interest there and if he has any concerns about Ann Taylor being his representation, and he says he does not. So this was basically a hearing on the record to clear the air about that particular topic, so it doesn't look like his representation will change anytime soon, and that doesn't throw off the timeline either. We can presume that the preliminary hearing is still going to be held at the end of June. There's a lot more to still find out. Again, all these documents that we're looking at, the search warrant returns, and then this unsealing of this pretrial conference raise a lot more questions, and there's so much more to discuss, and we'll be here on Case of Interest Kohberger every Friday, breaking it all down for you. Thanks for watching.